Bodog poll question today. How do you describe last night's game for the Canucks? Collapsed, got screwed. Vote at Sekeres and Price on Twitter. Sports odds, poker tips, and free casino games. It's time to play at Bodog.net. Bodog line of the day from me. Game 2 of the ALDS postponed from today to tomorrow. Quite the weather they're having in New York City. Cleveland throws Shane Bieber, who was sensational in the wildcard round. Nestor Cortez for the Yanks with his odd delivery. I'm going Guardians. I like the value here. Plus 117 to even the series on the Bodog line of the day. Here he is, our Canucks reporter, one half of the rink-wide duo with Andrew Wadden. We're back at it yesterday. Pre-game, post-game, every game. Looking at Vancouver's 5-3 loss to the Edmonton Oilers in the season opener. It's Mr. Jeff Paterson. Jeff, how are you?
I'm good. Still trying to unpack everything that we saw last night, because let's be honest here, like, the results sucked for the Vancouver Canucks, and we can break down all that went on, and we will, but isn't that what you want from sports? Like, there was star power coming out the TV. There was drama. There was controversy. There was just an
momentum
awful lot.
Swings. Yeah,
exactly. Lead change. Like, it really was. It had it all. Like, for an opening night, it was sensational theater.
The good TV show. Yeah.
Honestly, Jeff, I sat down for the second period of Toronto-Montreal, so I watched the final two of those, and that was a fantastic game, too. Yeah. And then Canucks Oilers, that is a hell of a debut for the National Hockey League and their TV partners. That was good entertainment last night. I saw you answer the poll question, and I saw you answer got screwed. Collapsed. Expand, sir.
Yeah, the referees blew it. How two referees, and the four officials that are on the ice, and nobody, in a time where head injuries now and blood, and I do think there has to be a mechanism there for that to be reviewable. I do. But in that moment and under the current rules, you got to play to the whistle. And unfortunately, Quinn Hughes is incapacitated. Thatcher Demko had lost his stick. It became a bit of a yard sale for the Vancouver Canucks, and it was a turning point. There's no doubt. If the Oilers don't score there, or that goal gets taken off the board, it's still 3-0 for the Canucks. They're in full control. Maybe the crowd reacts and gets into it, but really the crowd hadn't had anything to react to that point. And so, yeah, I feel like they're absolutely an egregious missed call. That said, this is pro sports. Things don't always go your way, and the good teams find a way to compartmentalize and to put that in the rearview mirror and just push on. And the Canucks had power play opportunities in that second period to extend their lead. So, yes, they got screwed, but this one's on the Canucks. They have to own it. 5 unanswered goals, special teams that were not special at all. And in the end, it was a win that got away from them.
Can I just ask that? That's a penalty that the linesmen are allowed to blow dead, right? Like, if a linesman sees that, they are allowed to blow the whistle and say, there's a high stick there that's cut a player. If I'm not mistaken, Jeff, you know the rules better than me. So
yeah, I'm a little unclear on this one. So
I think it's
somebody
four
that
guys
actually knows the rule book. Because, at that point, the referees are the referees. I don't know that you want to have 4 guys making penalty calls, but I do think if there's some sort of review process, the linesmen certainly should have some say in that. I know other sports have dangerous plays that allow you to go back and investigate and look at them. Again, it's 2022. We should be protecting all of our athletes, particularly the star athletes, when it comes to sticks across the face. And there was the one referee who is right there at the side of the net, but he's kind of spinning away as Kane and Hughes come out from behind the net, and he's also watching the puck. I almost give him a pass, but what's the other referee out in the neutral zone? What's he watching? How does that get past him? So disappointing. And look, it altered. Quinn Hughes leaves the game for 8 minutes. Quinn Hughes had missed 4 days with some sort of ailment, got back to practice, but I'm not sure that Quinn Hughes was at 100% capacity. Now you're asking the Canucks' best defenseman to play the second half of the game with cotton stuffed up his nose, which couldn't have been comfortable. And I just didn't think Quinn Hughes was anywhere close to his dynamic best after that incident. And he's a huge part of the power play, obviously. So, we can talk that incident to death. Ultimately, the Canucks were still in control of the hockey game. They had played a wonderful first period. I'm not sure they could have designed the first period any better. Their star power came to play. Paterson putting his stamp early. Miller, Kuzmenko gets his first goal in the NHL. It was just all going their way. And then to see them flush it, it was hard. It was hard to watch. But, hey, the best players in the world decided that they were going to take over. And that was the thing, that the Oilers hadn't had a power play. And it was kind of like, hey, this 3-0 lead is incredible. But we know what the Oilers are capable of once they get to work with the man advantage, and they showed it. They end up going 3 for 4, and I'm not going to turn this into here we go again with Canucks penalty kill, because one of the power play goals was the empty netter at the end. Yes, it goes on their record. It's a stain on their record, and they are going to have to claw their way back here percentage-wise, but really it was the 2 power play goals and the shorthanded goal that were the daggers for the Vancouver Canucks.
Well, as I said in the opener, the stick was up around Quinn Hughes' head for quite some time.
Oh, he raked
that wasn't a flash high stick. Like when a high stick is that high for that long, it should be caught. It's not like it was a subtle hold or hook or something.
I believe
like
linesmen can only. I believe a linesman can only make that call if they believe it to be a major. So it has to be like that. That would be a 4-minute high sticking, and it has to be what they qualify as a major, I think.
So intentional? Is that the distinction between 4 and 5? That's intentional? Okay.
Yeah.
Frankly, I thought the Paterson call was soft too. But as we know, score effects when you're up 3-0 and have had power plays. The next one is going to the team that trails.
Jeff, the criticism online after that game was, to me, unbelievably, in terms of just the level. A lot of criticism on Miller and Horvat. Talk about what you saw from those 2 players, and if they deserve the ire of Canucks fans afterwards.
Well, I was a little surprised that people were jumping all over Bo Horvat for the perceived lack of a back check on the shorthanded goal. I thought Elias Pettersson kind of handcuffed him and threw the puck into the middle there, trying to keep a play alive on the power play. And I actually thought it was Pettersson handing a bit of a grenade to Horvat, and then Horvat wasn't able to get back in time, and it became a 3-on-1. Plenty to go around. Ultimately, it's the Canucks power play, and it wasn't good enough in that moment. JT Miller, it was a mixed bag. I love the goal, down the wing and picking his spot and scoring, and picks up an assist, the pass to Kuzmenko as well. But there was still more of what we've seen every year from JT Miller. There was that blind drop in his own zone to, that's Connor McDavid behind the net, and then he found Cody Ceci sneaking in from the point. And I don't know what that was on what turned out to be the game winner, but that was Miller, Vesser, and Pearson as a line. It was Shen and Hughes, and it was a yard sale. And so I think there was plenty to go around. I didn't think it was a particularly good night for JT Miller. And quite frankly, I'll give Kuzmenko a pass. The guy scores in his NHL debut, but the other 4 constituents of that first unit power play, they go 1 for 8. They generate 11 shots on goal in 12 minutes and 15 seconds with the man advantage. It was all perimeter based. And the contrast was shocking when you saw how the Oilers attacked the net down low on their power play, and that tic-tac-toe goal was incredible. I'd watch that thing on a loop. Yeah. I can't sit here, and I thought Elias Pettersson was invested and dug into that first period. His game sort of found a level, I think, as the night went on. And JT Miller, I think you saw both sides of JT Miller, the guy that you want to get behind to be a leader for the Vancouver Canucks. But there were things that left you scratching and shaking your head.
I wonder if they went into that match wanting to prove that they are a good team, right? Like ready to compete this year. They get out to a 3-0 lead. It couldn't have been any better through 25 minutes. And I wonder if they just got a little bit loose because of it. They thought, not necessarily that it become easy. That seems a little bit too cliched and a little bit too relaxed. But I wonder if they just got a little bit casual with their details because they were up 3-0 and things were going so damn well.
I think there may have been an element of taking their foot off the gas just a little bit. The Kane non-call was a massive turning point. It was. And I just don't think anybody can deny, even on the Oilers side, they couldn't deny that swung momentum. It gave the Oilers belief. It got them on the board. It got the people into it. But again, it's 3-1 still. You're in full control on the road. Things are going your way to that point. And then you get more power plays to extend the lead, to get that goal back. And Hughes was out at that point, and the power play just kind of sputtered. And then, as we said, the one thing that hadn't really been seen, even though everything was going the Canucks' way, was you knew if the Oilers got on the power play that McDavid and Draisaitl are just that good. It's been one of the top power plays in the NHL for a bunch of years. It's going to be again. And they were clinical in their finishing. And so, the Canucks are going to have to figure out. You talked about the Pearson penalty, Matt. So normally it's JT Miller and Tanner Pearson. They're going to be the 2 guys over the boards to kill a penalty. Well, now Pearson's not available. All of a sudden it's Pettersson and Miller. And those 2 haven't killed penalties together. And so, you just wonder about early season chemistry and cohesion in that mix. Curtis Lazar had 6 seconds of penalty killing time in the game.
Yeah, what was up with that, Jeff?
Well,
we thought he'd be a primary one.
I know, but the Oilers don't spend any time on the power play, so I think you can look at it two ways. One is he only had 6 seconds. Maybe he should have had more. Mm-hmm. And so, instead of saying, oh, he only played 6 seconds on the penalty kill, maybe we should be asking, like, why didn't he have more of a role as a primary guy? And maybe he will. But the one penalty kill in the 6 seconds started with a strong side faceoff against Leon Draisaitl, who was on his strong side as well. And Draisaitl beat him cleanly, back to the point. And then they worked it around, and 6 seconds later, they're fishing the puck out of the net. So, Lazar was brought in for those situations. And again, it's one night. We're not going to write the story of him or the Canucks season based on what we saw. But when I was looking back at the statistics this morning in the light of day, it was like 6 seconds of penalty kill time for Curtis Lazar. And he was out there for one of those goals that really kind of continued the momentum shift for the Edmonton Oilers. So, again, it goes on the record giving up 3 power play goals. Really, it was just 2. And then shorthanded goals are always such a kick in the midsection. They are. That one particularly at that point of the hockey game to level it off. And the other thing, too, guys, when we talk about momentum swings, for Darnell Nurse, who already drew the ire of the Canuck fans last week out in Abbotsford for manhandling Hoaglander, a ridiculous decision on his part. Like, just a veteran guy, your team's down 2 at the buzzer, and you take a run at Kyle Burrows when he's locked up already. Like, yes, they got it right on the ice, and yes, the league got it right by slapping him with a token fine. But for the Canucks to score, like, some power play, I'm a believer that not all power plays are equal in their significance, and I felt like that was the Canucks start with fresh ice. They score in the first minute of the second. Now it's 3-0. You thought that the storyline there in Edmonton should have been absolutely just ripping Darnell Nurse all night long after the game. And instead, Darnell Nurse turns out to be one of the storylines for his scoring prowess at the other end of the ice. But, a stupid penalty, and the Canucks made him pay. And at 3-0, I know that they're the Oilers and that they've got 2 of the best players in the world. But I wanted to believe that this Canuck team was going to start the season off on the right foot. And this one stings. It has to sting. And, we always hear hockey cliches about, getting right back at it. That's the beauty of 82 games. Now they got to sit on this until Saturday. So there's sort of the extra day in there. Travel day today. They'll practice in Philadelphia and then an early start against the Flyers. But this one's going to sting. And all of a sudden it puts pressure on them for the remaining 4 on this road trip, right? Like, I don't want to say it was in the bag because they were the Oilers and McDavid felt like taking the game over. But, man, if they could have come out and picked up a win on opening night, just sets up the rest of the road trip. And instead now, there's a little bit of heat, more heat than there was before, certainly, to find a way. They probably have one more regulation loss to give on this trip. Otherwise, they're not coming home above 500.
Jeff, I was going to ask you about Nurse because, as you mentioned, he was spicy there in the Abbotsford game, and then the hit on Burrows. Unlike previous Canucks lineups, like this one had some guys who might have taken care of business and pushback and all that. Were you a little surprised we didn't see more from Joshua or somebody with Darnell Nurse as the game went on?
Well, I suppose a little bit, although Joshua barely played 6 minutes of ice time. That fourth line just didn't get out there. And I think they were protecting Nils Amon, especially as the game went along and you knew that McDavid was starting to feel it. Like, that's a tough ask for anybody, but particularly a rookie in his first NHL game. So that fourth line barely played. And I think the Canucks felt situationally that they had a lead and that they were going to shorten their bench and go with this spine of 3 centers down the middle and all, supposed to be one of the strengths. And in the end, I just didn't think that Miller line was nearly good enough. Paterson's line dominated. The underlying numbers were incredible. And I thought Podkolzin and Horvat did some decent things 5-on-5. I thought it was a really quiet night for Connor Garland. But in terms of retribution, you had the lead. Like, did you want to give the fan base something to latch on to? I think the Canucks were kind of taking it that way. It can't just be Dakota Joshua. I mean, we talk about Luke Schenn, and Luke Schenn was physical and led the team with 6 hits. And Kyle Burrows isn't going to back down from anybody. But, Darnell Nurse is becoming public enemy number 1 here all of a sudden. And
I'm here for it. Yeah. Early season
absolutely.
anger and vitriol. I'm all for it.
Part of the entertainment package that Jeff was talking about off the top. Like, good, let's make this rivalry spicy. For so many years, it was 2 of the worst teams in the NHL, right? 2 of the worst run organizations couldn't get out of their own way. So Let's make
it's like
it
an enemy thruple with the Alberta teams in Vancouver.
Let me ask this, Jeff, because I saw a little bit of this going around last night. And boy, like we say, Miller didn't have a good game. He had 2 points. Is the center ice spot and matching up 5-on-5 against some of the better centers, like, is that just not going to be his jam? Is that something they're going to have to look at going forward? Because I know he has said a lot of things about being a better defensive player, and I think it's been very responsible, very veteran of him after getting the big contract extension, saying, hey, I will give up some on the offensive end to make sure I'm a better defensive player. But is he just not wired that way? Are they going to have to look at a two center with Elias or JT or whomever sort of playing in a hybrid role and not stacking the three centers as they did last night?
Or, Matt, though, is this just a specific problem for a team like the Edmonton Oilers who have two of the top five players in the world?
Right. So, again, I'm not going to throw their entire game systems and strategy out the window after one against Connor McDavid, who just felt like going off and did that last night. That's the good news, is that the Flyers don't have Connor McDavid, and it'll be a while before they see him again. But to your point, something would have to change philosophically for Bruce Boudreau. Like, he sees JT Miller as his lead dog, and now Ilya Mikheyev is going to come back at some point, and Mikheyev should give them a little bit more meat on the bone in terms of matching up and defensive structure and a little bit more, just that speed. I mean, that's one of the things that he does bring to the mix. And so they're not completely healthy, but there's no guarantee in sports that you're ever going to be completely healthy. So Mikheyev's going to get back in there at some point here on the road trip, maybe as early as the weekend. We'll see. But I do wonder, because you're right, for JT Miller preseason, he had the quotes about, I'll give up points to better the 200-foot game. And then, night one, he comes out with 2 points, and you think that's great, but he's out there on what turns out to be the game-winning goal. So you got to put the money where the mouth is, I suppose, at some point here. But I think in the eyes of Bruce Boudreau, he is still, this guy that can play that sort of matchup role, and we'll see how long the leash is, I suppose.
Jeff, did they miss Tyler Myers?
The penalty kill wasn't very good. And so that's an area that the long reach and the levers and the disruptive stick and all those types of things. Yes, because he's going to play 20 minutes. Whatever you think of Tyler Myers, he's playing 20 minutes on this defense. And especially when Quinn Hughes went out, he probably would have had a few extra shifts as well, because they had to go down to a five-man rotation. And I would suggest, yes, when Quinn Hughes left the game, you had OEL, you had Luke Shen, and Tucker Poolman all of a sudden gets bumped up as probably their third best defenseman for those 8 minutes. And that right there speaks to the depth. And so,
the fact that Luke Shen's in your top two,
I know,
says a lot.
If does Mikheyev have a chance for Saturday, Jeff?
I think so. I mean, he could be retroactively placed on IR even in the preseason. So I think it's a question of just where is he, the full health. He's close. They skated him hard at UBC. I watched him the other day. He'll get a practice in. He was on the ice for the morning skate. So he's right there knocking on the door, and a little bit ahead of schedule, just like Brock Besser. And we should mention, too, with Besser, I thought a pretty quiet night. I'll cut him some slack. Hand injury, and not a single preseason game. So the last time he had a practice or two, but we hadn't seen him since training camp up in Whistler. But one shot attempt, and we just know when he's on his game, he's a volume shooter, and so he's got to shoot more. The second unit didn't get an awful lot of opportunities. He was the feature shooter in his one-time slot, and Kuzmenko scored on the power play, and I thought actually made a couple of deft plays as well. I don't think Kuzmenko's coming off the net front on that first unit power play, but the power play as a whole has got to get its act together, because they're not going to get 8 opportunities many nights. And last night, just way too much working it around the perimeter. Horvat had one shot attempt on the power play. He was their ace, getting it to the inside. It's kind of like the running game in football. You've got to go to the inside to get the defenses to collapse, and then it frees up some spots around the outside so that you can work it to Elias Paterson. But they seem to do a pretty nice job of taking away the inside for Bo Horvat, and the Canucks didn't even really try to get the puck into him. They just kept playing it around and around and around the outside. And so these guys got to get – I still believe that the component parts are there for this to be a very good power play, but a little distressing on night number one.
Do you think it would be Höglander, or do you think it would be Joshua if Mikheyev is ready?
Well, based on the fact that Joshua only played 6 minutes, I think quite possibly it could be him. But, the Philadelphia Flyers at home, They're not the Broad Street Bullies, but they do like to play that style with Torts behind the bench. So maybe
but Joshua's not that player either, as we've already seen.
I know. Well, and then my next question was, does Rathbone have a chance? Like, would you make the Rathman-Stillman move, or is that also governed by Torts, the Flyers, at home on Broad Street?
Yeah, I think overall the Canucks at 5-on-5 were pretty happy with their performance, so I don't think there's going to be any knee-jerk reaction. I mean, it really was a game that was won and lost on special teams, and so I think you got to look at the top of the lineup rather than the bottom of the lineup. I thought for the most part, like I thought Riley Stillman held his own, like he was fine. There was the one time McDavid turned him inside out, but it's going to be a long list by season's end of the number of guys that get turnstiled by Connor McDavid when he's in full flight. So I think Rathbone's going to have to be patient. It wouldn't surprise me if changes came in game 3, if they don't get a result in Philadelphia on Saturday. Beyond that, if they beat the Flyers, then the back-to-backs, right? Washington and Columbus. I would think Spencer Martin's probably getting his first start of the season against the Blue Jackets, and maybe with back-to-backs and some travel, maybe that's an opportunity to slide some new bodies into
on the
lineup.
McKay up front too, guys. If he's coming back from injury, is he going to play 3 and 4? That's a lot to ask from a guy that just drop it in. So if he plays versus Philly, I wonder if he gets a night off on Sunday or on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, quite possibly. And this is an organization that has been loath to bring guys back, certainly on the front end of back-to-backs. I think they've always been wary of that. So an extra day of rest just to, a little bit of caution, try to err on that side. So, but the fact that they're going to have a practice in Philadelphia, I think we'll get a much better read of what Bruce Boudreau's thinking and where Mikheyev kind of slots into all of this. But again, 5-on-5 for the most part. More than held the Oilers to 19 shots on goal, 5-on-5 over the course of the night. Like, you take your chances with that. You just got to find a way to stay out of the penalty box, and when you do, you have to get a kill. And the Canucks, unfortunately, unable to do that on night number 1.
Marvelous stuff, Jeff. Have good shows here with Andrew on Rinkwide, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.